Welcome to At the Public Library, the video source for news and information about the San Francisco Public Library system. This month's show features information about the library's summer reading program for kids. A talk with New York artist Alice Aycock, whose work will be going into the new main library. And a historical look at bookbinding with the Book Boys, Dominic and John. And of course, listings of upcoming library programs for children, teens, and adults at the public library. Thanks to voter support, San Francisco's public libraries have more books and are open more hours. Stay tuned throughout the show for listings of the new days and hours at your neighborhood libraries. Serving the outer Richmond, the Anza branch, located at 550 37th Avenue, is now open Mondays from 12 noon to 6 p.m., Tuesdays 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Wednesdays 1 to 9 p.m., Thursdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Fridays 1 to 6 p.m., Saturdays 12 noon to 6 p.m., Sundays closed. Atop Bernal Hill, the Bernal Heights Branch Library on 500 Cortlandt Avenue was the first branch to extend open hours. Here are the Bernal Branch new hours. Mondays, closed. Tuesdays, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Wednesdays, 1 to 9 p.m. Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, 1 to 6 p.m. And Sundays, closed. Serving the Castro and Upper Market neighborhoods, the Eureka Valley Harvey Milk Memorial Branch Library at 3555 16th Street near Market Street is open on Mondays from 12 noon to 6 p.m., Tuesdays 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Wednesdays 1 to 9 p.m., Thursdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Fridays 1 to 6 p.m., Saturdays 12 noon to 6 p.m., and Sundays closed. Located in the Outer Mission, the Excelsior Branch Library at 4400 Mission Street is now open Mondays from 1 to 9 p.m., Tuesdays 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Wednesdays 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Thursdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Fridays 1 to 6 p.m., Saturdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sundays 1 to 5 p.m.
The San Francisco Public Library's Services for the Deaf and Hearing Impaired is located on the second floor of the main library, Civic Center. Staffed with personnel fluent in American Sign Language, the Services for the Deaf and Hearing Impaired contain numerous resources for and about the deaf and hearing impaired. The library's deaf services may be reached via TTD at phone number 557-4433 or voice phone at 557-4434. Hours of operation are Mondays, 12 noon to 5 p.m., Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 12 noon to 8 p.m., and Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 12 noon to 5 p.m. Construction of the new main library in Civic Center has progressed steadily during the past 12 months. After a joyful topping out ceremony, the age-old builder's tradition of placing a tree atop a building after the last beam of the framework has been installed, the business of erecting the exterior walls was begun. The precast exterior panels of light gray granite were fabricated to match the color of the surrounding Civic Center buildings. The architecture of the new main library integrates a classic Beaux-Arts style compatible with the public heart of the Civic Center with a more contemporary configuration facing Market Street. When finished, the new main library will complete the Civic Center blueprint conceptualized by Daniel Burnham in 1912. The new main construction schedule was put off by approximately 30 days due to the severe weather conditions and rain of this past winter. The new main opening day ceremony is now scheduled for mid-April of next year. Meanwhile, work continues on the interior of the 375,000 square foot building, which features a dramatic 50-foot diameter, 5-story atrium, topped by a large circular skylight that connects the library's various sections and distributes natural light throughout the building. Currently, workers are busy installing the metal stud framing and sheetrock of the interior spaces, and installation of the elevators and electrical conduit and fixtures continues. The various special collection rooms are beginning to take shape, and interior millwork is expected to begin this month. When the new main library is completed, a total of 77 subcontracting firms will have participated in the construction of the building, which is being constructed by the general contracting firm of Huber Hunt and Nichols, Incorporated. The main library will open to the public in less than a year, and plans are already being made for a special grand opening celebration for what is truly going to be a civic treasure and a state-of-the-art library.
The Art Enrichment Ordinance passed in San Francisco in 1969 mandated that up to 2% of the total cost of construction in all new civic projects could go towards art and arts administration. The San Francisco Arts Commission and the Bureau of Architecture determined that $1.5 million would pay for 4 of the city's newest civic art treasures, which will be housed in the new main library, scheduled to open in April 1996. Prominent New York artist Alice Aycock, in town to check on the progress of her 2 new main library pieces, met up with At the Public Library at the Blakeway Metalworks to discuss her grand stairway conical structure and the companion hanging sculpture which will be nearby. Principal architects for the new main library, James Ingo Freed of Pay, Cobb & Freed, and Cathy Simon of Simon, Martin, Vagey, Winkelstein, and Morris, also share their thoughts on artists and architects in the design process.
This building probably has more involvement with artists than most buildings do. There was an art program here that dealt with art and architecture, and we took it seriously. That is, we do not want plop art, which is art added to architecture. We do not want static art. We want to bring the artist in and work with the artist in integrating some of his artist thought into the building itself. And I think so far it's been highly successful. It's the most integrated work I've seen.
We're very lucky because we have 4 incredible artists. One is Alice Aycock, a sculptor from New York, who's doing a stair from in the Great Reading Room from level 5 to level 4, and also a piece that's like the invention of a spiraling stair that hangs above the 3rd floor.
From the beginning, there was a very strong sense that I should engage the building and also engage it in a kind of functional way, which was the challenge in order to put something that would feel that it needed to be there and not just be a sculpture. So that was the sort of challenge. And then the other challenge was that there weren't, I mean, quite literally, there weren't a lot of spaces. Now I'm talking in a practical manner that something could take up, because everything is really going to be devoted to the space of the library, so to speak. So in essence, the challenge was not to take up very much floor space at all, and make something that felt like it was really necessary. At the same time, get in all the things that are unnecessary that art is all about. I mean, that isn't about practicalities. So all of those things, but I would say that to some degree, my earlier work was about making fantasy stairs, and not so much pragmatic stairs, but fantasy stairs. And there were a lot of sort of what I would call giving you the bird's eye view, where you cut something on a skew, and then you can see, you can look into it and have the plan view as well as the three-dimensional structure. So in a sense, this was kind of using a lot of the preliminary work that I had done over the years for temporary installations and things like that, and trying to bring it together and make a more permanent statement.
But it's interesting because this is, when we started the project, Ingo said to me, oh, this is fraught with dangers working with these artists. It's hard to have it work out. And I thought naively, and because I love artists so much, it's just going to be great. And it is fraught with perils, you're right. And it's very, very difficult. Artists, when they make something, think it's finished, whereas architects, we're willing to go on and on forever. So one of the problems is, how do you allow change to happen in the building and let the artists accommodate it, or make them accommodate it?
Artists have a very different time factor than architects. An artist's time sense is about a fifth of that of an architect. So there are very few artists who are comfortable with saying, this is my artwork, and documenting it, and putting it out to bid and construction the way any part of a building is done. Most artists like to be reactive. They like to see the building, like to see the space, go in there and do it. And even when they are brought along to do something where they disappear, and here the idea was not to have the artist disappear, but to integrate with the building. When sometimes the artist disappears and just their sensibility remains in the building. There's been an enormous amount of organization, which is very, very different. And interaction. It's extremely different than what I would do in the studio. That sense, how things have to be, I mean, drawings made 4 or 5 years in advance of when they're going to happen, and all sorts of things like that. I think that the public part of this, also in all the aspects of safety and everything like that, that would never happen in making an art piece for just a piece of art for a museum. There was tremendous going around getting things to the 16th of an inch in terms of all sorts of codes, and that the reason we're putting this together today is I don't think any of us have seen it all together. I'm going to be designing this portion right in here of its design, but we're going to try and mock it up so they can make it. And this is part of the part of the structure that was not done on computers and all of that we're just going to be doing hopefully here today. And I would say, this is the structural stairs, and this is the fantasy stairs that we're doing today. And this is a kind of fantasy stairs, and this fan section, which is not up, has not been completed yet, is another play on stairs. So essentially what we're doing with now is all the sort of playful aspects of the work. But it's fun to work with artists, because they start from the vision of the whole, and then get into the little stuff, like how does it work? we started the idea for making it work and getting little stuff like, what is the vision of the whole?
I think that as an artist, you take what you hope are your hunches, your experience, your attempt to arrive at something very authentic, just in terms of what people's responses will be, just, you know, and that's what I try to do. And I sort of, like, for instance, I have this sense that people will hopefully, if this pulls off, have a sense of something that's whirling and hurling and tipped, and that they will get a strong physical, psychological experience, because that's the way human beings are made.
Check out At the Public Library in the months to come for a look at the thoughts and the work of the other new Maine Library artists as they prepare for the grand opening in April 1996.
And now, here's some news and notes of interest about the San Francisco Public Library System for June 1995. The Western Addition Branch Library will present the 7th Annual Unsung Heroes Award celebration on Sunday, June 18th at 3 p.m. The Unsung Heroes Awards honors individuals in the African American community who give of themselves to make life better for others. MC duties for this year's Unsung Heroes Award ceremony will be shared by Donald Ray Young and Lucille Marshall. The program will feature a Juneteenth celebration, a vocal performance by Memphis, the comedy of Harriet Sebastian, African dance presentations by Western Addition youth groups, as well as a special Father's Day tribute to all dads in attendance, and a buffet reception hosted by the Golden Gate chapter of the National Council of Negro Women. Come and celebrate the achievements of some truly remarkable people at the 7th Annual Unsung Heroes Award celebration on Sunday, June 18th at 3 p.m. at the Western Addition Branch Library, 1550 Scott Street. The San Francisco Public Library's online catalog, also known as the San Francisco Connection, is a civic resource that provides more than just a catalog of the library's holdings. Other resources available from the San Francisco Connection include the EBSCO Periodicals Index, an index to more than 2,000 magazines with full text versions of 349 magazines available to San Francisco Public Library card holders, the John P. McGuire HIV/AIDS Information Database, a database of San Francisco AIDS and HIV service organizations, the Sally Brunn Neighborhood Association's database, a database of neighborhood improvement groups, merchant associations, and other neighborhood organizations, and Library News, which provides information about library services and events, and much more. The Library News Service is updated monthly, and last month an electronic City Hall feature was added to the list of news items. The electronic City Hall lists the location of all city government agencies, including the temporary locations of departments and agencies that were vacated from City Hall due to the seismic retrofit construction now in progress. Also included in the electronic City Hall section is information about the Board of Supervisors and City Watch, the city's municipal cable channel. Free dial-up access to the San Francisco Connection is available to all modem-equipped computer users. Just call 557-4450. Your home, office, or school computer must be configured as follows: terminal emulation, VT100 or other VT emulation, data bits set at 8, parity set to N for none, stop bit at 1, duplex at full, and speed of 1200 to 9600 baud. So get connected to the San Francisco Connection, your gateway to information at the San Francisco Public Library. And finally, this note. The main library and Civic Center will be closed on Sunday, June 18th for the annual Gay Freedom Day Parade. The following branch libraries will be open on Sunday, June 18th from 1 to 5 p.m. The Chinatown branch at 445 Grant Avenue, the Excelsior branch at 4400 Mission Street, the Marina branch at 1890 Chestnut Street, the Mission branch at 3359 24th Street, the Richmond branch at 351 9th Avenue, the Sunset branch at 1305 18th Avenue, and the West Portal branch at 190 Lenox Way.
To commemorate Gay Lesbian Freedom Day, the main library's Thursday noon video program for June is Transcending Borders. The series begins on June 1st with Before Stonewall. Blending archival footage and pithy interviews, Greta Schiller documents the history of homosexual America from the 1920s to the rise of the homophile rights movement. On June 8th, Paris is Burning. Jenny Livingston's award-winning look at voguing and the drag balls of Harlem. June 15th brings A Simple Matter of Justice, which captures the excitement of the performers, speakers, and events around the 1993 March on Washington for lesbian, gay, and bi equal rights and liberation. A double bill on June 22nd begins with Tiny and Ruby, Helldivin' Women. Drummer Ruby Lucas and trumpeter Tiny Davis discuss their long-term relationship and experiences performing with the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, an all-women jazz band of the 40s. And No Regrets. Using music, poetry, and personal testimony, 5 seropositive black gay men disclose their individual confrontation with AIDS in this powerful documentary by Marlon Riggs. On June 29th, actions speak louder than words. 6 deaf performers present staged pieces based on their experiences with the highly politicized nature of the intersection of British gay and deaf cultures. And finally, Kiev Blue. 9 men and women living in Kiev discuss their encounters with blackmail, government harassment, and family rejection in Russia. That's Transcending Borders. Free videos shown every Thursday in June at noon in the main library's Lurie Room.
The history and culture of Poland is the subject of an exhibit now on display in the second-floor rotunda of the main library. The exhibit, presented by the Polish Arts and Culture Foundation, features printed materials and artifacts that recount the history of Poland, beginning with the Piasts of the 10th century, progressing through the centuries, leading up to present-day Poland. Also included are materials documenting Polish contributions to music, film and theater, literature, religion, and science. A display of traditional costumes rounds out the exhibit that will continue through June 28th.
The San Francisco Public Library has many events for children year-round. Here's a look at some special summer programs coming up during the month of June. The Sunset Branch is having a music program with Patricia Heller for 2 to 5-year-olds on June 6th at 10:30 a.m. If you're 5 or over, come to the Ingleside Branch for a stamping program with Eric Mills on June 27th at 2 p.m. Celebrate new branch hours and Juneteenth at the Ocean View Branch. Lasana Bandele provides the music on June 10th at 1 p.m. Or you can celebrate Juneteenth at the Visitation Valley Branch. Lasana Bandele will be here too on June 17th at 2 p.m. with music for all ages. Every Saturday at 10:30 a.m., the main library presents a special family story time in English and American Sign Language. The Marina Branch has invited Carolyn Power for Fun and Festive Folktales on June 14th at 3:30 p.m. Word for Word performs The Elephant's Child by Rudyard Kipling at the Eureka Valley Harvey Milk Branch on June 26th at 1 p.m. for children 5 and over. Come to the North Beach Branch for fun with Jimbo the Clown. All ages are welcome on June 13th at 3:45 p.m. The West Portal Branch is having a Preschoolers Magic Show with Dan Snyder on June 6th at 10:30 a.m. Or you can wait for your magic until June 30th at 4 p.m. when Magic Dan will be at the Merced Branch. On June 27th, the Ortega Branch presents a special summer program for kids 5 and up. Ruth Halpern will spin her tales of mystery at 10:30 a.m. The Richmond Branch has 2 special afternoon June events. On June 13th at 2:30, the San Francisco Red Panda Acrobats present an acrobatic demonstration. And on June 26th at 1 p.m., Word for Word performs The Elephant's Child for kids 5 and over. Call your branch library for complete listings of June programs for children.
Hey kids, you're invited to solve mysteries of every kind, wherever your curiosity leads, by signing up for the Solve Mysteries Read summer reading program at the San Francisco Public Library. The summer reading program for children aged 13 and younger will be offered at all San Francisco branch libraries and the main library in Civic Center, June 24th through August 19th. Tickets to a Giants baseball game at Candlestick Park are among the incentives being offered to children who complete the program by reading 8 books. Other prizes include passes to the Bay Area Discovery Museum, the Morrison Planetarium, and the California Academy of Sciences. Paperback books, special bookmarks, stickers, pencils, and a magnifying glass to assist in your sleuthing. In selected libraries, a special youth volunteer program encourages middle school children to assist younger kids in participating in the summer reading program. Kid Power gives teens the opportunity to work in libraries, learn new skills, and gain valuable work experience. Kid Power volunteers will receive T-shirts supplied by The Gap in recognition of their participation in the program. For more information about the summer reading program and Kid Power, call the Main Library Children's Department at 557-4554 or your neighborhood branch library.
Hi, my name's Knute. I'm a middle school librarian with the San Francisco Public Library. So I work by going into the schools and talking to young people about books. And I know you guys are almost done with your school year. So it's summer vacation, you'll have lots of time to spend reading. So whether you're laying out in the sun or in the fog, these are a couple of great titles that you might be interested in checking out for the summer. This first one is called Jumping the Nail by Eve Bunting. The jumping place is called the Nail. It's at least 90 feet from the cliff to the water below. And who knows how far down in the water. Some say it's bottomless. Some say there are dark underwater caves. And some say there is a car wedged down there with 2 skeletons in it. The last time someone jumped, it was a girl. She never made it to the water because she hit the rocks. A helicopter had to come in to fly her body to the hospital. That was 10 years ago. Now, Crazy Scooter has decided he wants to jump the nail. But what has Drew really upset is that he's taking her friend Elisa with him. Drew knew Elisa was insecure and would do almost anything to impress Scooter, but she never dreamed it would come to this. Now, as Elisa and Scooter come flying off the cliff, they look really small flying through the air, and Elisa's red hair flies out behind her head. Well, they still haven't come up. That's Jumping the Nail. It's by Eve Bunting. The next title I want to tell you about is this one, Owl in Love by Patricia Heller. Now, Owl is a pretty strange name, but there are things about this girl named Owl that are even weirder than her name. For example, her blood is so dark that it's almost black rather than red. And she doesn't eat the type of foods maybe you and I do. She doesn't eat fruit or vegetables, pizza or cheeseburgers. All Owl eats are rats and mice, and occasionally somebody's hamster. That's because Owl Tai Cho is a 14-year-old shapeshifter, a girl that can change at will into an owl. And she is madly in love with her science teacher, Mr. Lindstrom. Every night when she goes flying out to hunt her dinner, she sits perched on a branch outside his window and watches as he sleeps. But recently, 2 things have interrupted her vigil. One is another owl. It doesn't seem like it knows how to be an owl. But what has her really worried is this strange-looking boy that's running around in the woods, and she's seen him spying in Mr. Lindstrom's windows. Could this boy mean Mr. Lindstrom harm? And if so, can Owl stop him? And do so without blowing her cover, that not only is she a 14-year-old girl, but she is also an owl. That's Owl in Love. It's by Patricia Heller. And this other title, once again, was Jumping the Nail by Eve Bunting. You can get both of these titles and lots of other great summer reading at your public library, either down at the main or in one of your branches. So come in, check out the library, and get some great summer reading.
You're watching At the Public Library on cable channel 54, City Watch. You can also see At the Public Library on Tuesdays at 3 p.m., Fridays at 8 p.m., and Saturdays at 2 p.m.
The San Francisco Public Library is pleased to present Factory Maneuvers, an examination of the mechanization of bookbinding in the 19th century, with your hosts, Bay Area bookbinders John Demerit and Dominic Riley.
Hello. It's Book Talk with John and Dominic. John, say hello to the people at home, please.
Oh, hello.
Now, we've been persuaded to take a break from our browsing here at the special collections at the San Francisco Public
deep
Library.
reading.
Deep reading.
Yeah.
To share with you some of the observations we've made. Now, John,
Yes.
what have we been looking at particularly today?
2 books. One book, Dominic's book from the 18th century.
This is called, it's Horatius.
Yeah, and I have the Table Book of Art, built about 100 years later than your book,
Yeah.
1870s,
Yeah.
19th, a typical 19th century book. Now, let's talk about a few of the surface differences in these books.
Sure. No, my book, for instance, and this is obvious, you can tell
Yeah.
this, my book's bound in leather. It's covered with leather.
Right.
And leather, of course, is expensive. It's difficult to prepare. And costs a lot of money. Now, your book...
My book, on the other hand, is bound in cloth, a linen, probably coated with some
Right.
sort of starch.
So what
Very
we're really saying
inexpensive.
is that major change happened in the 19th century with relation to bookbinding, and that was, John?
Cloth,
Something more?
Xeroxing,
Little out of time?
binding books at the 4-inch.
No, I have to stop you there. It was, in fact, mechanization.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that.
That's right. And we're going to look today at some of those machines that intervened in the bookbindery.
And we're going to visit 2 very different bookbinderies that are related in some ways.
We certainly are.
Right. Which are actually, I think some of our old predecessors were working at those
Yeah,
binderies
John
at
and
the
I
time.
both come from a very long line of ancestors,
That's right.
some of whom
Happen to be
bookbinders.
bookbinders.
Yeah. In fact, I had an uncle who was a bookmaker, but that's something slightly different. And he went to jail for it.
And
Now-
my grandfather was a leather worker.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, a football coach.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is a skeleton of a binding. A book, not a little bit unlike this. And what you can see about it is that it has its boards, which are these, attached to the book before it's bound. And they're held in
Now,
place by means of these cords that the book is sewn on, and they're held in through these holes. The big difference that we want to look at today with John's book here.
My book, on the other hand, comes in 2 parts. A text block, which has been sewn and worked together, and a case or a cover, which is made separately from the book block and then sort of wed together at the last minute in a big standing press.
Right.
And we're going to look at some of the visceral differences between these 2 structures, where the similarity is we're both starting with a printed sheet of paper, which we get from the printer, printed 4 up, folded into what's called a signature,
Which pops inside here.
which is nested inside these and is gathered into a book, which is the same thing that we will both start out with.
Yeah.
But they're all similarities and the work is very different.
So what we're really saying is, although
Yeah.
these books look different on the outside, the major differences come in the 19th century with the way they're built.
Right, things
through
that aren't so obvious when
the
you first look
structure,
at the book.
the way they're built. So we have a couple of pictures, and I think up there we can see
Yeah.
that's a nice engraving of a picture of a bindery in the 18th century.
Right.
And what are a couple of things that we notice about this? There are 4 people in this
Mm-hmm.
room. This guy here is beating the sections. The paper needs to be flattened before it's bound.
Right.
Here, on the, sitting at the sewing frame, is a woman doing the sewing. The division of labour was always done down gender lines, and women always did the sewing and the sewing of headbands. And they sat down generally to do that. Then over here we have this man who's here at a thing called a press and plough, and he's shaving the top edge of the books off to make them flat. And here's a guy operating the big standing press, a wooden press. And that's essentially most of the activities in bookbinding are described in this picture. Now,
That's right.
This other picture, on the other hand, John, you'll tell us
Yeah,
about.
this picture represents a very large, factory-style 19th century bindery. And this is just one small section of this bindery. And maybe starting with the perspective, maybe starting in the back, you can see a group of people there who are perhaps folding, maybe gathering. You can see something with a sort of a treadle or a windmill there. That might be a folding machine.
And these are all operated by steam via
Correct.
these...
You can see this cog, or this sort of treadle up on top, which is probably operated by a large steam-powered engine, maybe in the basement of the building. A little bit towards us, you can see the giant stacks of signatures everywhere, probably women sewing at the sewing frames. A little closer to that, you can see someone with a beating hammer, or a rounding and backing hammer, probably rounding and backing. A little closer to that, I think you see some very rudimentary sort of guillotines.
They look great.
Yeah, you can see the sort of shavings on the floor. Yeah. And the interesting thing about this illustration is that it represents a very small part of the bindery.
John, could I just interrupt you, please?
What?
Nothing, I just wanted to interrupt you. So.
Right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I think now what we should do is talk, we've told you a little bit about our ancestors.
Yes, our ancestors. We did say that we had ancestors who were bookbinders, and we weren't joking, it was true. And I think, first of all, we're going to look at my ancestor, who was called Archibald Riley, and he was a bookbinder in the 1780s in London. And here he is. In his bindery in 1786.
That's right.
Now, this is the year of the great bookbinders' uprising, when 4 of them went to Newgate Jail for demanding for a reduction of their working hours by 1 hour. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And my ancestor, Archibald...
What do you mean? He looks like he just got up.
No, he's just got out of Newgate prison. That's why he looks pissed off. Now, here we are in the picture. In the foreground, the plough that we saw.
Yeah, and what do you see that he's sitting in front of?
That's the sewing frame. Huh. In the background, a small standing press.
Yeah.
There's almost nothing else in this
That's all there
bindery.
is really to the binder.
Yeah, a bit of leather.
Some hand tools.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
What's that he just picked up?
That's a little knocking down mallet.
Uh-huh.
And here's a little book I think that we're going to see him sew in a bit.
In signatures.
Absolutely. Now, by contrast, we're going to look at your ancestor. What was his name, John?
His name was Charleston Temerit.
Yeah?
19th century hack merchant.
Oh, yeah.
With not a care in the world, really.
Really? Yeah.
And here he is knocking up books. In the bindery, you can see the difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, there's about 6,000 pounds worth of difference between the two binderies. You see 2 large pieces of machinery behind him. The board cutter, where old Charleston is right now.
Yeah, that's him. He looks kind of like you, doesn't he?
He is a distant relative, yeah. Now, next to him is a guillotine used for cutting paper.
Where's that? Oh, on the left.
The gray monstrosity.
God, that's a brute, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a brute, and it can really cut
He was a
paper.
messy old bugger, wasn't he?
Look at him.
Look at that place.
Yeah.
It's a disgrace.
You should see the floor.
Ugh.
Yeah.
They
I
just
think he
didn't-
cleaned this up before we went over there.
Really?
Yeah.
They didn't care back then, did they?
They didn't care at all.
So wage labour we're talking about, really. I mean, this guy he works in a factory. He doesn't really have the same autonomy that old Archibald had back.
He works from 7 in the morning till 9, 10 at night.
He does
every
not.
6
Really?
days a week.
Phew. Now, we're going to look at the operations involved now in this, in these binderies.
In the 18th century
Yeah,
bindery.
1786. We're back in the bindery.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Archibald sewing.
Now, we saw the sheets earlier, and here he is. Now, this job usually done by a woman, I understand. Now,
Yes. What's that he's tying
well,
on
this is
there?
called the sewing key, and you've got it.
That little piece of brass in his
Yeah.
hand.
Now we sew round this cord, right? You've got to lock it into
Yeah.
place. So he's going to.
You're doing a special knot there.
It's called a key knot. You put it in this groove,
Yeah.
then it gets wrapped around this bar at the top.
Yes.
Round it goes. Tie it off, and then you need to make it nice and taut. So you can do this by means of these
With
screws.
those wooden screws.
These sewing frames are very old. They date
Yeah.
back to the 13th,
All this
12th
equipment was
century.
made out of wood.
Absolutely.
primarily.
Yeah, not fiberglass or anything like that.
No nylon thread
No.
or anything.
Now he's got 5 of those cords.
Yeah.
And he's sewing
And you
around
can see
them.
that he's sort of going around them.
You don't go in a line. You just do a loop, a figure of 8 thing, and you just sew them one after the other, linking up each time to the next one.
Yeah, that's called a kettle stitch,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, this is Irish unbleached linen thread.
Yeah.
When it's sewn, you take the keys out, of course, and you have to cut the book away from its cords, as I think he's going to do. Yes,
With a
he's
pair
going
of
to
shears there.
cut them off with some shears. And once that's done, you take the keys off. They just unwrap.
Yeah.
You see, you don't have to cut those. And there it is, all sewn up.
It's starting to look like a book.
Now, Charleston, on the other hand, has a different way of doing it. My
Charleston
goodness, look at
has
that.
a Smythe sewing machine, another
Well,
monstrosity.
when was
On
that
the other
invented?
Oh, in the 1850s, I believe, given it a little kickstart. This one happens to be electric, although the older ones were steam powered.
Oh, he probably would have used steam.
He probably would have used steam, but now he's using electric. He places the signature of the book on a platen, hits a treadle with his foot, and the book is sewn, left in place, sewn in gigantic blocks of more than one book, which will then be cut apart later.
Right.
He's finding the middle of the signature, putting it on the platen. It's pierced and sewn at the same time.
This looks like hard work, though.
Very hard work.
Cost-cutting work.
Cost-cutting work, incredibly fast compared to hand sewing.
Right. That's a good, nice little picture of your old
you can see the
great-uncle
cams.
there.
There is a similarity, isn't there? Cutting off the threads, removing. You wouldn't just sew one book at a time. You can sew up to 30 or 40 books at a time, depending on how many signatures.
And there's no cords here.
No cords, no tapes, no anything.
Now,
trimming.
Now, we're looking in the 1780s at trimming. It's been unchanged for many centuries.
What's this piece of equipment
This is called a laying press. It sits in a tub.
Yeah.
You screw the book in. This is the foredge we're going to trim first. And it has a little piece of binder's board at the back of it to protect it. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually take this thing called a plough, which is sitting on the desk, which is essentially a sharpened blade, which is held together between these two pieces of wood with a screw.
Yeah.
And we're going to run it up and down
It's
in
like
this gutter.
It's like another press.
It's another kind of press, yeah. And as you'll see, it shaves that little bit of the pages off. And
you don't just cut the whole book block at once.
Oh no! Every time you do it, you turn in with the screw a little bit, and it moves the blade in.
So you're turning. You can see that you're turning the blade a little bit there.
Yeah. In and in and in, and then it's nicely trimmed.
Then you go all the way around the book.
It's very fast.
Would you do 1 or 2 books at a time?
Sometimes you could put 3 in, depending on the thickness, you know.
So the plough fits on a track on the laying press.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you have to do the other 2 sides. You know, you take it out and you turn it around. But that's essentially all there is to it. Just
and it makes a beautiful cut.
Oh, very smooth. Very smooth.
Yeah. On the other hand,
oh, this is good.
Charleston's guillotine here, which is the machine you saw in the background before, is a very large machine with a blade, a mechanically operated blade.
When was this machine invented,
1830s or 40s, I believe. You can see he's just cut the foredges of 2 books that were sewn earlier. There's a fence in the back that there's a gauge that's set. A clamp comes down to hold it, and the blade is engaged with a clutch.
Fabulous. Mind you don't want to get your fingers caught in it, do you?
Absolutely not.
Rounding and backing.
Bad accidents can happen.
Now, here we are. Before we round and back this book, you see those cords are very thick.
They're very thick cords.
So we fray them out. It's called fraying out the slips. And when they're nice and smooth, we just take a bookbinder's hammer, which is a slightly rounded hammer, and hit the book gently, very gently, on both sides.
Now, what's the purpose of doing this
well,
rounding?
the book has a huge swell at the spine, right? So that swell has to go somewhere.
Because of the fold and the thread.
Yeah, the fold and the thread makes the book thicker at the spine. So we put it into a round like that, so it will function better as a machine, because it is a machine.
Now you see again, you're going back into the laying press, which was really the all-purpose piece of equipment in the bindery.
We're putting it between these 2 angled or beveled backing boards.
Yeah.
We're going to hit it with the hammer again, and that puts a joint or a sort of shoulder on the book. It's that little edge where the board is going to sit.
Where the board will sit flush to. Now here, on the other hand, is a star backer or a rounder backer.
Gosh.
That will replace hammering a book. It's been slightly hammered, so it's a little bit round already. Charleston here is clamping the book. He'll put all his weight onto it.
Oh, I see the round there, yes.
You see the round there. He's going to roll this giant iron round roll over the book. And you can see that it does a pretty nice job.
That's a very heavy roller that's going on.
It's very heavy. This is the sort of ultimate Victorian piece of machinery.
I love that. I want
and
one.
he did a pretty good job there.
Yeah. He's a hard worker.
He works very hard.
Now, lacing on, of course, this is the board that's going to make the cover of the book, and we're punching holes in it, which you'll see why we're going to do that in a minute. We punch 2 sets of holes, and then we cut a small channel, which is also called a slip.
You're sort of excavating the board.
Excavating a little bit, and that's where the cord is going to sit.
Yes.
So it makes it nice and flat. And into those holes, we're going to actually rub some glue, or paste in this case, onto the slips, those pieces of cord that the book was sewn on. And they will then be laced into the board. And you'll see how this works. You see, they line up nicely. We get the paste,
So the board's attached to the book before...
It's attached at this stage.
Before covering.
Which is very different to your book, right,
Yes.
that you showed us earlier. So we've rubbed some glue into there, and now we take those slips.
Yeah. Does your head get hot during this?
Because of the little cap I'm wearing?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. We pull the little cords through, although that isn't actually me. I know it looks like me.
Yeah.
That was my great-great-ancestor.
That's right. There was such a similarity.
Yeah. And we're going to bash down those holes, and that will secure the book in place.
Now, headbanding.
Into its boards. Now, this is all done with a needle and thread and a simple piece of cord. It's important to put chalk on your hands.
Yeah.
Very important.
Just like a gymnast.
Yes, or a snooker player, or a French chef. And then we're going to sew around the headband, 2 colours, red and white. Generally, they would use 2 colours.
So you're actually, this is being mechanically attached to the book
Oh,
through
yes.
sewing.
You actually...
There's no glue involved.
Look, you're going
here.
down there, look.
Yeah.
You're going right the way through, below the kettle stitch.
Right.
And
Below the kettle stitch.
Yeah, you don't have to, but it's always good. It's a psychological reassurance, I think, more than anything else. And then
using 2 colored threads.
2 coloured threads. It's a round headband, and then when it's finished, you just tie off at the end. Bit of glue, but this is hot glue made from leftover bits of animals that our carnivorous friends don't eat, and then just glue it down, and then with the knife, the all-purpose paring knife, cut the...
Remove the ends.
Yeah, in the olden days, they used to be laced
they
into the boards.
It to the boards.
This is more decorative than structural, and you cut it off. And there it is, a beautiful, decorative, stripy headband.
Right. And we'll see in the 19th century a new kind of headband, because we were really moving into multiples in it.
They did away with the sewing.
They did away with the sewing because it was extremely time-consuming.
But you still have a striped piece of material there.
So here we see another cost-cutting mechanical device. Now, this striped material came from the binder's Oxford shirt.
Get out of here.
It's true.
Oh.
Which the binder probably paid for themselves.
What, in terms of...
Yeah.
You mean they paid for with the accidents they had, and they paid for with their lives?
The bindery wasn't...
Oh, well, they actually bought them, right. I see.
Now, you can see I just wrapped a stiffened cord.
Oh, and there you see he's made several headbands out of his shirt.
Yeah. Those were for different books.
Right.
Yeah, old Charleston had a lot of shirts. Now, lining the spine.
Oh, okay.
After we've attached the headband to the book, we take a piece of creche, mull. It's very much like a piece of cheesecloth.
Notice that Archibald didn't line his spine, by the way.
No, Archibald did not.
Because he didn't need to, because it was already strong.
It's already strong.
You put this on.
What Charleston is doing here is, since there is no attachment of boards, he is lining the spine of the book because it needs to have some strength, some compactness to make the book block, the text block, a single unit. Plus, he's creating, by putting this creche on here, he's creating a strong attachment for the cover when the cover is actually attached.
In England,
to
we used to call that mull.
Yeah, they call it mull. It depends what coast you're from.
Right.
It's also called super.
Oh.
I think if you call it super if you're from Chicago.
Okay. Now he's glued it again.
He's glued it again.
And
he's going to attach a piece of craft paper just to add some stiffness and just so that the spine retains its shape as it
That's
opens
pink craft paper.
Pink craft paper.
Not
very, very 19th century.
Presumably not made to match the headband, which is also pink. That's just an accident, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we're not going to see that. Now, covering, actually, for old Archibald back in the 1780s was a lengthy process. Covered in hide, leather.
Yeah.
This is actually a kip side, which is an adolescent calf skin.
Yeah.
We make a template.
What are you doing there? Making
well,
a template?
I'm marking it with a nice piece of chalk all the way around. Oh, he looks tired, doesn't he? Remembering those long days when he was languishing in jail, I think. All my family have been great revolutionaries. I have a great radical tradition that I come from. He's cutting it out with this big knife.
His paring knife.
My mother actually organised a revolution within the Women's Institute a few years ago. Now he's going to pare the edge here with his
paring
English paring knife, I have to say.
Yeah. Oh, that looks very hard.
Well, it's hard. It's tricky too. Yeah. You can lose a finger.
Now what's he doing?
Well, he's
there?
dyeing this now, and it's a vegetable dye, brown number 2. There were only 4 colours of dye in those days.
You just brush it on with a piece of cloth. Huh?
Yeah, it's a rag, really.
Yeah.
Put it on with a rag, or a rag, as they say in Montana. And then lift it up to the light.
That's what Peter Koch would say.
He would, yeah. He's got such a hick accent, doesn't he?
Now what?
Now we're just pasting it out now, get it nice and wet.
It's just wheat starch paste.
That's right, it's boiled, you know.
Yeah.
When it's tacky, we put the book on it, wrap it around. Now you see, it's not covering the whole book.
Yeah.
This is called a half binding. The rest
Now,
of the
by
book.
this time, the leather is quite supple and easy to work
Oh, it's
with.
wonderful. We're forming it round the spine. We want,
Yeah.
want to take all the shape and the impressions of those raised bands that we sewed it on. The rest of this board will be covered in marble paper or plain paper, by
Yeah.
the way.
Now
We're
you're
turning it in down the
turning it
spine,
in.
and when it's closed, we wrap it up.
with cords.
And this cord that goes round pinches each one of those bands on the back and emphasizes them.
Didn't his sleeves get in the way when he was working?
Oh,
Now,
sometimes.
Charleston, on the other hand, is making what's called a cloth case. He's setting his board cutter up to cut boards, which have not been attached to the book block yet. So now is the time that he would do that. As
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cutting the panels out.
Now this is really quick.
It's
The
very
boards,
quick.
by the way, Archibald would not have used one of these. He would have cut his boards in the plough.
Yes,
the
he would
same
have cut
place
in
where
plow, the same way that
trimmed
he
his.
cut the book block. And this
Yeah.
is all about multiples. Here's a piece of book cloth, a
Now,
starch.
tell me about book cloth.
It's a starch-filled linen that was generally coated on the facing side for making it easy to stamp and to make it pleasing. to
But this
the
wasn't
eye.
around in Archibald's day. This was.
Oh no. This was came around into wide use in the 1830s and 40s, and it really became the prime, a lot stronger than.
So it was an alternative. It was better
To
than paper,
leather.
but it was an alternative to leather.
Yes.
It was easy to treat. It
And
was
they
much
had to
cheaper.
invent new methods to use it because
Sure.
in ways it was a lot harder to.
So they got it from the textile industry, I
Yeah.
presume.
Yeah, and they made some improvements to it that made it easier to work
Okay.
for books,
Right.
particularly so that it could accept stamping and adhesive.
Stamping is the gold tooling onto it, right?
That's right, the embossing.
Now he's
Now,
making what?
What Charleston is doing is making the case. He's using a gauge there so that the spine size is always uniform, which is very important.
Oh, okay.
Putting the two panels down.
So this is very
Very
This is
fast.
like production line
This
stuff,
is
isn't
production. You would do hundreds of these at a time.
it? Right.
Putting a spine piece down.
To reinforce that.
And you can
the
see that
spine.
all his movements are very economical. Just goes like that. You can tell he's done it millions and millions of times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's fast.
He's very fast. Now he's going to use a simple turning in tool.
Mm-hmm.
Hand tools were still quite common in the, addition bindery, but they were just aided. There was certain steps that were aided by mechanical machines.
But you're still using. I mean, he's still
absolutely.
using his
You're
hands, right? I mean,
He's still using it's hand.
this is
work.
not all like
No, there's-
factory machine production
Oh
that we.
no, that's the common misconception is that factory work was unskilled.
Well, I
or-
certainly thought that until now.
Yeah,
Was I labouring under a misconception? Was I?
I think you were laboring under a very large misconception.
Well, thank you for putting me right.
Well, thank
It's
Charleston.
still- yeah.
Thank Charleston.
Looks like a book.
Now,
doesn't it?
tooling,
Ah.
on the other hand, Archibald is
Oh, let me tell you about him, because I'm very proud of him. This is real gold leaf, and it's in a little book, and he's lifting it out. You can't sneeze when you're doing. Oh,
Yeah, oh.
you can't even blow. Look at that.
Yeah.
You've got to blow to get it onto the pad.
Now,
but
what is that pad that he's putting?
it's
it
made
on
of
there?
suede.
Uh-huh.
It's the other
And it
side
just
of leather.
Sort of holds the. Gold, and what's, he
That's
has
a gold
special
knife.
there.
Special gold knife,
You
special
can't
shape.
touch that with your hand.
No. You can eat gold leaf. Did you know that?
I didn't
It's very
know
good
that.
for you. In fact, I think Archibald used to have a bit of a taste for it. That's probably why he died early. He got gold poisoning. Now, you pick it up with a bit of cotton, and you can put it onto the back of the spine, and then
How
you
is that?
go in with a tool.
Yeah, in his hand, he
This
has
is
a hot tool.
Hot tool. There's an adhesive underneath there, which is glare, which is made
Right.
from
Now, have you
egg white
treated-
and vinegar.
You've treated the book with the egg white and
Yes.
vinegar before you put the gold
And
in.
that acts as a kind of adhesive, which
Right.
will stick the heat, activates the gold onto the adhesive.
That's right.
Just a simple center tool. The rest
A
of the
dingbat,
gold,
we call that.
yeah, that's a 19th century term, though,
That's
isn't
right.
it? I'd call that a center tool, rosette.
Now, on the other hand, this is another one of the big inventions of the 19th century.
What is this?
It's a blocking press or a foil stamping machine.
When's that from?
1830s
Wow.
as well, around the same time as the guillotine. What Charleston is doing there is he has a composite foil. It's made out of aluminum, probably, with a heat-sensitive adhesive on the back of it. Not dissimilar to the gold stamping.
But it's not real gold.
No, it's not, although you can use
I think they
real
used to originally, didn't
gold.
they?
Yeah, and you can see it's heated up. There's a thermometer on there. It's up to about 250 degrees.
And you just go in like
And that's
that.
just all there is to it. You can see once again that this is
And-
really for multiple.
And mass production. And you can throw away the ones you waste, right?
Yeah.
Which is a good, which is
5%
good
over
idea.
you always
Right.
for. Now pressing.
What's Archibald doing?
Archibald-
He's just putting it straight in the press. I think
now
he's
that it's covered.
I think he's pasted out the end paper, but the cover was already attached, so he doesn't need to do much pressing.
No,
Just close the book generally with a bit of glue in there.
just to give it a little consolidation. But there's not very much pressure.
But on the other hand, Charleston, my
Charleston what he's doing now is he's going to wed the text block,
goodness. Wed, I like that.
to the cover, using a wheat starch paste again.
Now, what is he pasting out? This is an end paper, right?
An end paper which has been attached to the book, tipped onto the book block,
And
very carefully placing it on the case.
And the spine lining is glued on there also.
Right.
But it's only that attaches this book to its
That's
case,
right.
to its cover.
That's it.
It's not as strong.
No, not as strong.
He does the other side.
But done correctly, it's stronger than you think.
Is it?
Making sure that the attachment is right, that it's all in place. Now he's placing it in this very large standing press. You can see.
Oh, right. Much bigger than the one that old Archibald was using.
On these things.
A metal press.
And the boards are a little different too. They have a metal ridge all the way around, so that the spine of the book, the joint of the book, sits on top of the metal.
So that little groove that's near the spine is caused by that metal
And
strip.
you can see all the boards leaning against the wall there.
Yeah.
So you can do about 50 or 60 books at a
Right.
time. He's filling the press up with what's called furniture now.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice furniture. Where's that from?
The redwood forest, I believe.
Oh, nice furniture.
Don't tell him.
Oh, no, okay.
And now he's closing the press with, he will put quite a bit of pressure on there to keep the books from warping.
Yeah.
And
You can
leave
get
it in there overnight.
Is it true that the pressure increases overnight in one of these presses?
No, it actually decreases.
Oh, does it?
It'll relax a little bit.
Oh.
And he's got an extender bar in there. And
So there you have it, John.
yeah.
Wonderful, wasn't it? Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
Thank you very much to Charleston, Demerit, and
Archibald.
oh,
Yeah, consummate craftsman.
yeah. Well, Archibald certainly.
Yeah. Charleston's trying.
Well, give him a B.
Yeah. I'll give him an E for effort.
But thank you very much for joining us, and we hope that this.
We hope you've gotten an idea of what happened in the 100 years between the way this book, Dominic's book, bound in leather, and this, my book here, sort of swaddled in cloth. Mm-hmm. Maybe that give you an idea of what happened on the inside.
Sure, and if you're interested in doing some research of your own or looking at some of the wonderful stuff that the Special Collections has here at the San Francisco Public Library.
San Francisco Public Library Special Collections. Take a look at the Grabhorn collection, which is a wonderful collection of books about books.
Absolutely.
One of the best collections.
It's a great place to do research into book history of any kind, especially bookbinding history.
Resource.
It really is. And also, if this has piqued your interest, which we hope it has, into bookbinding yourself, then the Hand Bookbinders of California is a local group which covers the whole state. We're based here in the Bay Area.
Binders and bindery enthusiasts.
We can put you in touch through the library with them.
Yeah. And Dominic is the editor of our journal and newsletter.
Oh, yes,
Bold Leaf.
but John, I have to say, is our new president. We're very excited. He's the first president under 80 that we've had in almost 50 years.
That's right.
And we hope that things are going to be exciting in the bookbinding world in the future months. So, from John Demerit
And Dominic Riley.
thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll see you next time.
Back to our reading.
Yes. Goodbye.
Located in the heart of the Bayview District at 5075 3rd Street, the Bayview Anna E. Wadden Branch Library is open Mondays and Tuesdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Wednesdays 1 to 9 p.m., Thursdays and Fridays 1 to 6 p.m., Saturdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sundays closed. The Mission Branch Library, just one block off Mission Street at 3359 24th Street, is open Mondays 1 to 9 p.m., Tuesdays and Wednesdays 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Thursdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Fridays 1 to 6 p.m., Saturdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sundays 1 to 5 p.m.
You too can be a friend of the San Francisco Public Library. Join us. For more information, phone the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library at 557-4257.
We'd like to hear what you think of At the Public Library. Please send your comments to San Francisco Public Library, Media Production Services, Civic Center, San Francisco, California, 94102.
You've been watching At the Public Library, here on cable channel 54, City Watch. At the Public Library features news and information about the San Francisco Public Library system. And for a printed copy of some of the information in this program, pick up a copy of At the Public Library at your branch or at the main library. Tune in next time for more At the Public Library, and thanks for watching.